but you know, it's the way the cookie crumbled tonight. So thank you to all of the city council candidates, and if folks don't mind giving them a round of applause here, we'll move to our final group of candidates here. The two remaining candidates for mayor following the preliminary election. I think they're going to take opposite sides here. I was joking earlier, it was like British Parliament. You know, they have that big table in between both parties so they don't jump out. Very civil discussion here, of course, tonight. It is a forum, so we have a opportunity for 3 questions being posed, and if we have a little bit of extra time, we might ask a few more, but we will begin with introductions. If we want to start over on this side, and then
Sure.
2 intros.
Good evening, my name is Rick Marggraf. I'm a husband and father of 2 daughters, ages 35 and 12. My wife is a native of Amesbury and an Amesbury High School graduate. So we moved back here in 2011 to be closer to her family after the birth of my younger daughter. I also served 1 term on the Amesbury City Council as the District 6 representative throughout preservation of Woodsum Farm and the protection of the, through the zoning of marijuana throughout the city, specifically within District 6. My wife and I have been here, like I said, since 2011, and we love it here. We don't plan to move. Like many places, Amesbury is struggling with rising costs. You know, when I talk to people here, certain conversations just keep coming up. Cost of living, schools, athletic fields, roads, sidewalk maintenance. So I have a long background in finance and management. I'm currently the Chief Financial Officer of True North Ale Company in Ipswich. And before that, I held the same role at a Southern New Hampshire civil engineering firm for quite a while. I have a very strong sense of morals in my decision making, and I believe the city should have money in reserve and spend within its means. My opponent talks about getting things done, but really what is getting done right now? After 4 years in office, the same problems exist, and I don't see any plan to shift course right now. Without strong executive leadership, things will continue to get worse. Earlier this summer, I decided it was time to offer an alternative vision for the city. This race is really about the vision, hope, and strong skills that I plan to bring to Amesbury. Please visit my website or Facebook page at marggrafamir.com in order to learn more about my plan and other platform positions. I ask for your vote on November 7th as your next mayor, and thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Gove.
All right. Good evening. Thanks to AFT for hosting tonight's forum, to everyone on stage for stepping up for election or re-election, and to all of you for joining us in person or virtually. I'm Kassandra Gove. I grew up here. I graduated from our public schools, and I've worked for and with our businesses, and I love what I do. I was elected to serve as mayor in 2019, and I took office in January of 2020. We've been together through a global health crisis, a racial reckoning, a housing crisis, and a mental health crisis, and we're still in the thick of it. It's an honor to serve my city as we rise to meet these challenges and ensure that we invest in what makes Amesbury so special. We have made notable changes and progress in things like stabilizing our finances, delivering quality services, and breaking ground on capital projects. I'm so proud of the work that our team has completed and accomplished with much of your involvement. However, the work is not done. I am the right person to lead us through the next 4 years, and I'm asking for your vote on November 7th so we can continue this work together.
Thank you. So as I said, we'll ask 3 questions, at least 3 questions this time, and given there's only 2 candidates, we'll afford the opportunity for each candidate to respond to the same question. I'll start with you, Rick. Question number 3 out of the potential pool. There's been a lot of talk recently about a potential fiscal cliff facing our city in coming years and the potential subsequent Prop 2.5 override that would be necessary just to keep the lights on. In your view, is this threat real? And if so, how would you, as mayor, plan on ensuring the city has both the funding and resources it needs to survive?
Well, all you need to do is pick up page 37 of the Amesbury 24 budget book, and it'll tell you everything. The projected losses over the next 5 years in that book total $3.5 million. The tax levy right now is at the legal limit. Whittier Tech vote would add another $3 to $4 million a year based on the current bond rates. The CPA surcharge vote would add another 1% to your taxes, and there are no plans to stop the rate of spending. You know, this totals a possible $6.6 to $7.6 million increase in next year's taxes alone. That would equate to about an increase of $1,100 to $1,300 a year for the owner of a single-family home valued at $520,000. That's stunning. Should there be a failed Prop 2.5 override vote, the result would be massive budget cuts, deeply affecting the schools. My priority in dealing with this is our imminent financial crisis first. I'll put in place short-term, medium-term, and long-term financial and operational plans and immediately begin implementing them. In the short term, we'll focus on spending and financial controls. Medium-term focus is on the budget process, and the long term on new economic development. You know, 2 years ago, my opponent sat on this stage and said she planned to slow down business development, and that's what she's done. She also said that people want to pay higher taxes. She's done that too. Well, the people of Amesbury are not an ATM. I have 4 main goals, and simply stated, they're to get control of our finances primarily through fiscal control, economic development, and other new sources of revenue. Invest and improve in our schools and stop the practice of the mayor presenting low budgets every year only to be overridden by the municipal council. Continuously improve our quality of life and improve the discourse in the community. You can find my complete financial package out in the lobby on your way out, and for those watching online, you can view on my website or my Facebook page.
Thank you. And Mayor Gove, same question to you regarding potential fiscal cliff. Do you think this threat is real? And if so, how would you plan on dealing with it to make sure the city has both the funding and resources it needs?
Record high inflation and the limitations of Prop 2.5 mean that city expenses are outpacing our revenues, and maintaining the quality services that we have all come to expect has become a challenge. We're not alone. Prop 2.5 wasn't built for this, and it's being talked about from Pittsfield to P-Town and everywhere in between, including Beacon Hill. During my time in office, I've taken aggressive action to mitigate the impacts of this financial pressure from all angles. I've focused on reviewing revenue sources that were outdated and behind the market, things that hadn't been updated in 30 years, changes that we will benefit from immediately. I've been to Beacon Hill, advocated and secured additional formula funding for our schools and earmarks for capital projects and almost $10 million in grant funds. What's been left out of this conversation is the new growth that we are seeing, which is quite a bit. It's not all in one project, although Munters is a big one, but we are focused on growth that will add to our tax base in coming years. We're engaging in revenue forecasting now that we know will and seeing how it will overlap with rising expenses and any expiring debt. And on the expense side of things, any chance we have to renegotiate a contract or go to bid when we think it will be advantageous is something that we do. But as a foundation, our department heads are required to start their budgets from scratch. They base it on need rather than basing it on last year's request. As a result, this year, almost half of our departments requested less funding than last year, or less than a 2% increase. I'll keep at it, again, from every angle. There is no magic wand. There's no one thing that can be cut from our budget or can be passed with legislation, but we have to do this together with budget controls, an understanding of our services, economic development and new growth, and an experienced leader.
Thank you. I'll start again with you, Mayor Gove, for the next question, number 6 from the question pool. As you know, having served for a while now, the mayor also serves on the school committee here in Amesbury, so this is a school-focused question. School department staff are facing 2 emerging health and safety challenges. 1, increased behavioral and social issues, particularly at the middle school level. And 2, Despite the new Shea Elementary School, the infrastructure and physical learning environments continue to deteriorate in other buildings. Both have forced a shift of resources. What specific strategies will you consider to support this shifting learning landscape?
It's been a focus of mine and the school committee to ease the burden on our teachers and staff and develop other support programs in recent years. Some of the initiatives include continuing our 5-year drug-free community grant to foster positive youth development through the partnership of Amesbury Community and Teens and their expansion to the middle school that happened just last year. I'm a founding member of this group. I attend their monthly meetings, their programs, and their events, and we work hard to connect young people to adult role models, make community connections, support their mental health, and decrease risky behavior. We also have a strong Amesbury School Support and Empowerment team, which has brought in the Pettingill House to stand beside our Amesbury Police Department to support students in need with social workers in our school buildings. The school budget has continued to provide for interventionists and adjustment counselors as well as relevant and timely professional development, and I look forward to seeing what the new grade configuration has for an impact on the environment in our middle school. Yes, our school buildings and our grounds need improvement, and I've been actively involved in securing funds to support these needs. We have funded and started the middle school roof project with securing an odors project manager that will cost us nearly $4 million. I've secured a state earmark in the FY24 budget for a new Cashman School playground, and our IT infrastructure, support, communication network, and devices have had huge investments in the last few years, and our educators should start to feel the impacts and relief this year. And yes, we have replaced an aging building with a brand new one, but of note, related to that, we are 3 years into funding an escrow account for maintenance of the specialized systems in that building to prepare us for the preventative maintenance that we should be engaging in. Capital planning and collaboration between city and school leadership is critical to ensuring that our resources are put to good use. We have new leadership at Public Works and in school facilities, and each team has different skill sets and resources, and they can work together to support and care for our assets.
Thank you. And Mr. Marggraf, the same question regarding these two emerging health and safety issues, one being the increased behavioral and social issues staff are seeing, especially the middle school level, and the second being the decaying or need for maintaining infrastructure and physical learning spaces in other buildings besides the Shea.
Sure. So as any parent knows, middle school is a really difficult time for kids' development. This requires additional resources in order to cope with them. Middle school leadership, specifically the principal's position, has been a revolving door lately. It's been a Band-Aid approach, and it's been inconsistent. We need to assemble a leadership team at the school that best serves the families, and that means long-term steady leadership. Maintenance might be needed at other schools as well in order to address those infrastructure issues. Now, the school committee is responsible for addressing this, of which the mayor should be a voting member. All resources from AES went to Cashman and Shea, both schools now working well as a combined facility. The biggest resource that all the schools need is staffing. ESSER money is about to run out, and current positions will be lost if they're not funded by the taxpayers now. The high school is short teachers in some departments. Support staff has been shuffled around to other schools, and it leaves others to pick up the slack. Other staffers have been shuffled around to meet the demands of those classrooms. But the big thing is, again, discouraging business development eventually results in less money for schools.
Thank you. That dovetails nicely into the third question I'm going to ask, which was number 4 in the pool. And I'll start again with you, Mr. Marggraf. What plans, if any, do you have for greater economic development and promoting business, especially small businesses, in Amesbury as mayor?
So we need a much more balanced approach and robust to economic development. We're in an economic development hole right now, and it's been caused by my opponent. I believe in supporting all business development, not just small. And they all have different purposes, either quality of life for residents or to provide homeowners with tax relief. We need to stop chasing away existing projects like Maples Crossing or the hotel in the Golden Triangle Those two projects alone were valued at about $100 million. Instead, we replaced it with something we already have in town at $40 million. It just doesn't equate. Economic development is decreasing, not increasing, and it's putting additional pressure on homeowners, taxes. You can be sure that potential developers are certainly watching and they're avoiding Amesbury. I worked, as I mentioned, at a civil engineering firm in southern New Hampshire. Developers come in all the time. Hey, I have a piece of property in Amesbury. Don't waste your time. They won't work with you. They walk away. It happens a lot. We need to embrace tax financing as a tool to attract new development. TIFs work fantastic. We need to establish strong ties with the Mass Office of Community Economic Development. We need to recruit developers that have plans that match our needs. So you don't sit back passively and wait for people to come to you and say, hey, I'd like to build a building in your town. You go out and you talk to developers and you say, what do you have? Do you have anything that would fit in this property we have in town? And actively engage with state government for grants like MassWorks related to infrastructure, such as what we did on South Hunt Road in anticipation of ice rinks. You need to actively engage, we should listen to the residents in affected neighborhoods regarding current economic development plans. It just seems like it's all apartments all the time, and that's all we do. There's a lot more out there, and we're not doing it. So again, we have a need for a much more balanced approach to economic development.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, same question. What plans do you have for economic development and promoting business?
4 generations of my family have owned small businesses in Amesbury. I was our Chamber of Commerce director for 5 years and was a realtor. It's part of who I am to champion and advocate for our small and micro businesses. Since taking office, I have put Amesbury in front of out-of-town business owners and entrepreneurs with an invitation to relocate or expand their business to Amesbury by speaking to many regional events, and I've been featured in North Shore Magazine, Business View Magazine, and the Boston Business Journal. What I've learned from small businesses is that 1, they don't have time to deal with City Hall. When they need something done, they want it done fast. We have made great progress in putting our things online and making them available to them at all hours and streamlining our processes. 2, disruption to their normal operation is more than frustrating. We are moving our special events permitting online this year to further improve that process and provide advance notice to businesses impacted by upcoming events and make it easier for them to plan their own. And when we meet with large employers, we speak about transportation for their workforce and lack of housing options. We are working with MEVA and increasing housing production opportunities to meet their needs. Without these, economic development will be constrained. Taking care of the businesses we have matters. They are our biggest advocates, and it's important that they have a positive experience and a working relationship with our local government. I work closely with our Chamber of Commerce and have included business representatives on our committees and task forces, from the BEAT during COVID to our hiring committee for our new economic development director. Overall, our vacancy rate for retail commercial space is very low. It's something that I've tracked. When we talk to developers, we advocate for mixed-use development whenever it makes sense and keep our ear to the ground to hear from businesses about the type of space they need so we can provide room for growth. And we have over $100 million in development putting shovels in the ground in the next few years, which shows that our work to improve these processes has paid off.
Thank you. And let me check with my boss over there. Do we have time for one more question? I'm hearing. So I'll go to question 9, and again we'll start with you, Madam Mayor. It's in the zeitgeist right now. People are concerned about the lack of athletic fields and the need for improvements to the ones we have. Would you consider this an important issue? And if so, how would you plan on dealing with it?
Thanks. Yes, this is an important issue. Our fields and the youth sports they host are a huge source of community pride. I know that athletics have a ripple effect on our community, and they are often our first impression to visitors. It's important that we put our best foot forward, and we know in our community these spaces are overdue for investment. Using the 2019 master plan as a guide, we have invested in fields every year since I've been in office. We built 2 brand new athletic fields, made minor improvements to another, funded restoration work at the CES rectangular field, and secured funding for 2 additional fields this year to support our youth outside of the classroom and invest in recreational areas. We are actively working with the Jets to find space now that the Sparhawk School is not available to them, and have $100,000 in the budget this year to restore and improve Landry Stadium. We've done all of this while also preserving over 100 acres of open space and renovating Lake Gardner Beach. These are areas that are also important to athletes and recreation. And we'll continue to do this work, including securing state and federal funds to reduce the burden on taxpayers. Capital investments like this are funded through borrowing or one-time revenue sources, and the maintenance is something that we've started including in our general fund budget. For so much of this, it's the first time we've done it, the first time we've built it, or the first time we've maintained it. Maybe not ever, but at least in recent years. And we'll learn from these experiences and reevaluate priorities for additional projects as we go. But the important thing is that we're taking action that is going to make a real difference for the people who use these spaces and for our children. And I want to recognize the volunteers, some of you here tonight, who have shouldered this work for so long. Thank you for that and for your partnership as we move forward.
Thank you. And Mr. Marggraf, same question. What would you do about the athletic field issue?
So all you have to do is pick up the newspaper lately, and you know how important this is to the Amesbury Youth Sports Leagues. Parents are volunteering their time, trying to give kids a good experience, and they're increasingly getting frustrated dealing with the city. My brothers and I all grew up playing multiple sports. My dad founded the Youth Football League in my town. We had trouble getting fields, so I understand exactly what these folks are going through. I will dust off the existing master fields plan from 2019 done by the firm of Malone and McBroom, and we will update that to the current day needs. This was a comprehensive and very detailed plan, and it was participation from all stakeholders, folks from the city and every individual sport in town. It includes surveying all the needs for all athletic fields across the entire community. It was done by sport, by age, by type and size of the field. It included all game times, practice times, everything was taken into consideration. They also inventoried the existing fields, including their conditions now. Then they determined where the gaps were between the needs and the availability. They prioritized the needs by field and type and size. And then they established the funding sources and a timeline. Now this will have to be done in a phased timeline. Phase 1 was originally supposed to be 8 rectangular fields at Woodsum Field, directly adjacent to the Shea School. In 2019, we funded Phase 1 on the Municipal Council. I supported that. A DIF, which leveraged the full build-out value of the Amesbury Heights apartment building complex, is what would have funded that. We did $1.5 million on the City Council. We had $300,000 coming from the school budget, and there was another $1 million on a bond. So it was roughly $2.8 million, which would have done Phase 1. After the creation of that, the DIF zone and the allocation of funds, the entire project was stopped with no explanation. The Amesbury Jets are now forced to practice in Salisbury. Girls softballs get legal services to try and negotiate with the city because they're frustrated. Amesbury Soccer has been trying to set up fields for years. Public school teams are renting out at Amesbury Sports Park. They're putting additional pressure on school resources, and today we have fewer athletic fields than we did 4 years ago because of the master plan being stopped. We've spent $1.5 million at Town Park, and we have one less field now than we did 4 years ago. That's not progress, and the kids are suffering as a result now, today. This administration has simply not made fields a priority, but I will.
Okay. Thank you to both mayoral candidates once again for taking the time tonight to answer questions. Folks, please, round of applause for them. Time flies when you're talking about economic development policy, doesn't it? Before we leave tonight, I would like to thank Russ Monroe and the Amesbury Community Television team for making sure this event has wide availability to the public. I'd like to thank AFT Amesbury for sponsoring this, particularly Lauren Snee, Lori Williams, Tim Osgood, and Union President Cindy Yetman. You guys did a ton of work to make this event possible. Want to thank Rich Papa for helping set up the stage tonight and everything here. The student volunteers who were here tonight helping out, huge thanks to them. I'd like to thank my in-laws for watching my kids so my wife could attend for a little while. And of course, the dedicated candidates for office on the stage with me tonight. Bless you all and our incredible little city. Good night, folks. Thank you.